So for as long as I could remember, the San Antonio Spurs were always known as the team that always won. They were a dynasty, they played a beautiful style of basketball for decades, and had one of the greatest head coaches of all time in Greg Popovich, along with one of the greatest players of all time in Tim Duncan. But this offseason, the San Antonio Spurs made an important decision. And that decision was to start all over and hit the rebuild button, which is something that organizations like the Spurs might find hard to do considering how great they were for such a long period of time, winning championships, not being in the lottery like, the Knicks, the Kings, the Timberwolves. They're not used to that. But right now, they're on that path, and it's a good thing that they chose this direction because it's almost really the perfect time for them to do this. They traded DeJounte Murray earlier in the offseason, who was their best player, and they try to get assets to prepare for this rebuild. And they did it the right way. They waited until DeJounte Murray was at his peak. He became a first-time All-Star this season. His reputation was at its highest, and it made sense to pull off the trade. You got unprotected first-round picks in that deal as well. So it was a win. It's not like they took a major L. Does it hurt to lose DeJounte Murray, especially if you're a Spurs fan and you watched him come up from being a guy that wasn't really producing like that and became really your franchise player? Probably does. But just know, it's not like you're taking a major loss on this. It can potentially be beneficial in the future. And now when you look at this Spurs roster, they're extremely young heading into next season. And they're probably not going to be competing for a playoff spot at all. I expect them to really be in the bottom half of the league, one of the top 5, top 10 worst teams in the NBA next season. But they still have some interesting players to watch for on this team. I like the rookies that they selected in this year's draft. Obviously, I like Keldon Johnson. He had a good year last year. He's still really young. I like Devin Vassell. Those guys are heading into year 4 for Keldon Johnson and year 3 for Vassell. And they're probably going to get bigger roles on this team with DeJounte Murray not being on the roster. So maybe they can take another step. Another guy that I want to see next season also is Josh Primo. He is still extremely young. The man is 19 years old. He was selected with the 12th pick in the 2021 draft. And he's going to get a big boost in minutes for this team also. So there are guys on this team that are going to get their chances. And they're going to have to take advantage. They're going to have to take advantage of these opportunities because this team is really in like a developmental stage. And the main goal right now for this franchise isn't to win a championship. It isn't to make the play-in game or make the playoffs. It's to tank. I'm sorry, Spurs fans, you're not used to tanking like that, but your team is tanking. But you know what? Hey, think about this. Remember when Tim Duncan was in the draft and the Spurs basically had to tank because David Robinson was out? It's basically like that, but this is like a full-on rebuild now. This isn't like a 1-year stopgap and then you select the number 1 draft pick and become a championship team. But it's a little bit different. And you know what? All NBA teams go through this, and the Spurs are no different. It's going to take some time, but right now, you see their vision. I see it. I saw it when they traded DeJounte Murray. It's really so that they can hope and get that number 1 pick in the 2023 draft. That's why they got all these unprotected picks. That's why they basically punted away their best player to another team that was heading into his prime as well, because they want Victor Wembanyama. He is the prized possession for that draft class next season, and this played a major part as to why they decided to pull the trigger to start the rebuild right now. A lot of NBA scouts see Wembanyama as a potential generational prospect, so it would make sense for the Spurs to want to get in on that opportunity. But there's still some other questions that come in the Spurs franchise right now, and one of them being is Greg Popovich. He's been coaching this team since 1996. He's 73 years old. I think he should be done after this season. I see no point as to why he would continue. But there's also a follow-up question that comes with that, and that is, who is his replacement? Becky Hammon went to go coach in the WNBA. Ime Udoka, he left to Philadelphia in 2019. Now he's the coach of the Boston Celtics, and he's one of the better young coaches in the league. So maybe a diehard Spurs fan can tell me who is like that new prime candidate to take Pop's job one day. But right now, they got to figure that out. They got to figure out who is actually valuable on this roster, because maybe there are some guys that can still get traded on this team. Who knows? I look at Jakob Poeltl. Is he a guy that can get traded in a few weeks or before training camp? Who knows, maybe. But right now, it's clear to see what the San Antonio Spurs are doing. They're tearing it all down. The organization is in a rebuild. And it'll be really interesting to see where the organization is at year by year. I think this is a rebuild that's going to take a little longer, especially with them being a smaller market. Not really a team that gets big-time free agents outside of like LaMarcus Aldridge, who was the only guy that went there like that. You can't really name him. So it's going to be built through the draft. That's the way it's going to have to be. But you can see the way it's going. You can see the process of the way they want this to go down. They just need some lottery luck. They need some guys to develop into players that they really didn't think they would develop into. Like maybe if Josh Primo can become a good quality NBA player. And then maybe Vassell can take another step in the right direction as a player also. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You look at this team. It's going to take some time. Spurs fans, just be patient. You guys are not used to being in a rebuild. That's fine. But I like the direction they're going in. I think the Spurs franchise one day should be back on top, not too far from now. Anyways, that's going to do it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Link will be down in the description below. This has been the Checkup, where we talk hoops and hoops only. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace.